Hello, this is John Wickey, and I'm principal harpist with the Greenville Symphony, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the harp today. The harp is at once one of the oldest instruments and yet one of the most modern instruments. Harps date back to early recorded times. The Babylonians, Sumerians, Egyptians, and others all had triangular harp-shaped instruments with some number of strings. Over the years, the interest grew in making the harp have more notes to play and play a little louder. And over many decades, we've come quite a long way from the little handheld harps of the old times. So the first harp I want to introduce you to is the folk harp or the Celtic harp. These come in a variety of sizes. They're from 16 strings to 24 strings to 36 strings. This is a 34 string folk harp. It has 36 strings, and you can tell the strings as they get smaller, the pitch gets higher. The lowest notes down here are in the wire strings. The wire strings are made of steel and then wrapped with copper, a steel core. The middle of this harp is made of a newer material called carbon fiber. It's a polymer that got popular in the middle 20th century. And it's very strong. It's 5 times stronger than steel, and it's very flexible. So these strings are very tightly wound. The interesting thing about this harp is that it does have a full range of levers. Each string is equipped with a little lever that, when raised, will raise the pitch of each individual string, its string, 1/2 step. So this lever is C sharp now. I can move it down. It goes to C natural. Back up, it goes to C sharp. In order to find the strings, harpists, we color the strings red and black. The reds are C's and the blacks are F's, and that's how we find the strings. There always was a limitation, though, with the harp, because as keyboards started to happen and they started to grow in size, the harp couldn't keep up with the keyboard, with pianos and keyboards, because if you had one string for every pitch, they'd be so long you couldn't reach all the notes. And so mechanisms like levers and other things had to be devised in order to make the harp more interesting. So that's a folk harp. Folk harpists call themselves harpers as opposed to harpists. And there's it was often perceived that the folk harp was a sort of stepping stone in this country to becoming a pedal harpist. And I think folk harpists really resent that, so that's why they want to be called harpers and not harpists. Here, I'll play you a little tune. The tone of the folk harp is, generally speaking, there are different ones, a little lighter, more gentle. And it sort of sounds like, Lord of the Rings, a little kind of Middle-earthy to me. Some versions of these harps are made entirely of carbon fiber, which makes them very light and very strong. And then they're equipped with pickups that allow them to be amplified. And you'll see occasionally these days pop harpists wearing a harp strapped with a strap around their shoulder, wearing a harp, playing it in pop music. So they're interesting, very interesting instruments, not the same thing as a concert grand pedal harp, but has a lot of strengths in their own right. Plus, they're more easily portable. All right, so I'm going to move, as I'll demonstrate now, as I move this harp out of the way. So as I said, over the years, here I'm going to try to adjust my camera so I can stay in the picture. Okay. Over the years, they wanted to broaden the range of the instrument. And as I said, when they realized how if they had one string for each note, that the thing was going to be very long. So they devised a mechanism. After the lever that was originally a hook was devised, they came up with a way, and I'm going to sort of focus you in so you can get a closer look. They devised this system where they would have these little discs that would cut off a little piece of the string. And remember, when the shorter the string gets, the higher the pitch gets. So that would raise the pitch of those strings. Now, how would the harpist ever have time to move all the little discs themselves? And the only way they could figure out how to do it was to connect these discs with rods that go down the column of the instrument and connect to, geez, John, you're going to have to get back a little ways, to pedals at the bottom. So there's one pedal for each note name. And here I'm going to show you and take you back up to, there we go. I'm a bad cameraman. Okay, so then I'll show you what they do. So the C's are the red ones, right? I'm playing C's. Now watch the discs above my hand. Now that's C natural and C sharp. So what we call a double action pedal harp, because I have two discs per string, double action. Originally they had a single action pedal harp, but then in the early 19th century, the French piano maker and harp maker Erard developed the double action pedal harp, which just changed everything. Because not only could the harp now play in all keys, we could add additional notes. The range of the harp is almost the same as the piano. We're missing 2 notes in the bottom, and we're missing about 3 or 4 notes at the top, but we're not really missing a lot. What we are missing is hammers. The piano inside has hammers that hit the metal strings, and that makes it a lot louder. But we as harpists, we have a lot more control over the sound because our strings directly touch individually each string. So it makes it a lot more intimate, I guess is the word I'd like to say. So over the years, one of the first tricks that we figured out about having a double action pedal harp is that you could do this neat thing where instead of playing just a plain old scale, we could use our pedals to eliminate some notes of the scale and or more appropriately. So I've put C sharp and then F sharp into their notches. And so that makes it so there are 2 D flats and 2 G flats in the scale. And by rearranging the pedals, I can change that beautiful effect. And we originally called it glissandi for the slide of the string. But other harpists have called it things like the flukes, which are a flux. Something that's a little bit more than just how you do it. It's a very powerful thing. And we found that if you play one fast, it sounds like a chord. If you play one slow, it sounds sort of like a scale. There's all different qualities of flukes. In addition to that, there are many techniques and effects. I can't show them all to you, but I will try and describe some of them. The most common of which is the harmonic. Now you can play harmonics on the violin and the guitar and all. The essential principle is you're cutting off the string in half by placing your hand or a finger over it, and then playing the note. So the real string is this, boom, and then you can play, which is the sound above it. Now on your left hand, playing in left hand position, I can play 1 or more of these at the same time. So that's 2 at the same time. I'm really talented, I can play 3 at the same time. There we go. There's 3. Very rarely you have to do that anymore. Anyway, that's one effect. There's so many. There's almost over 33 or more, and every year there's somebody new coming up with something else that's new. One of the very common ones is playing near the soundboard. Here we go. We'll make it sound more like a guitar than a harp. You can play with your fingernails. You can also, by holding the strings on the bottom, we can do a thing called xylophonic effects. You can, and the smaller strings up here, you can do what we call vibrating sounds, or like sort of a tremolo, like on a string instrument. It sort of sounds like a Japanese instrument called a koto. You can do so many things. Oh, pedal slides, of course. So if you move the pedal after you play, usually we want the pedal's movements to be pretty silent. But if you move after you play, ooh, you can get that too. You can sort of hear that in like jazz sometimes, and different kinds of music. So someone did a Pink Panther thing all about it and thought they were just great. How great it was. But anyway. That's pedal slides. So many. You know, you can put a mute in the strings of paper, and it sounds kind of funny and interesting, like a sort of 18th century kind of instrument. There's so many things you can do with the harp. All right. In order to do that, to just demonstrate that more fully and effectively than this mouth, I'm going to play you a little piece for harp written by Carlos Salcedo. Oh, many years ago. And he had a house up in Camden, Maine, and the house was set right out in the end of a spit, right out into the harbor. It was a beautiful piece of property. And he wrote this song called Song of the Night, or in French, as he was, Chanson dans la nuit. And it's a little tone poem about a rainy night in Camden. And it starts off, you can start to hear the little pitter-patter of rain come down, and the crash of thunder and lightning, and then you can hear little bells off in the distance, the harmonics off in the distance, that the buoys make, the little clanging that the buoys make, and the bells. And then in the middle of this piece, there's a little jazz band you can hear from the town across the waters, and it gets a little louder, and then it gets a little quieter, and then finally at the end, the rain just sort of fades away, and it's a quiet night.